It's exciting and the landscape is great and you need diverse voices. I've always felt that way. That's why I've kept my last name. It's why it was always important to me for people to know that I was Chinese, because when I started, it was important to me for another generation to see someone like them reflected in the media. So I'm not saying that we need to do finance just for women, make it pink. It's not about that. It's about, I'm telling you what's going on in my life with the things that resonate with me. And I think because they resonate with me and my unique experience, hopefully it resonates with you.
This is the Personal Finance Show.
Hi, I'm Beau Humphreys, and this is episode 64 of the Personal Finance Show and the first episode of 2019. Happy New Year! As I said before the break, 2019 is a big year for me as I am becoming a parent for the first time. Since I'm recording this intro ahead of time, the baby might have already arrived. If you want to know when the baby comes and are a fan of the show, I'd recommend joining my new Facebook group. More details about that at the end of the show. I'll be sure to post a photo or two of the baby in there when he arrives. But until then, I have a lot of podcasts to publish. First up is Melissa Leong. Melissa Leong wants you to spend smart, save right, and enjoy life. Those are the words on the cover of her new book, Happy Go Money, which was just released this week. Melissa is a personal finance writer, on-air personality, speaker, and best-selling author. Now, you might be thinking, Beau, you can't say best-selling author if Melissa's first book just came out. Well, we didn't talk about this in the interview, but Melissa is already a best-selling author. Her self-published paranormal adventure novels, What Kills Me and I Am Forever, written under the pen name Win Channing, has sold almost 70,000 copies and soared to number one on a number of bestseller lists on Amazon. Melissa is funny and mindful and really just wants to help you manage your money while maximizing your happiness. Melissa invited me to her home, where I got to meet her family, have some snacks, and talk about her personal finance story.
I think my earliest recollection is my father had a shoebox that he cut a slit into, and he made that my piggy bank.
So was it because of a funding thing, like you guys couldn't afford a real piggy bank, or he was frugal, or just creative? All of the above.
Oh, all of the above. No, my dad was practical. He's the most practical person I know, and so
I like that. That's none of the things I said.
He thought shoebox, duct tape, done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
No.
Are you in a right angle? Like, I feel like do you want to shift so we can look at each other?
Yes,
or?
because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm staring off at a cupcake. I'm literally going to spend the entire time talking at the cupcake. So let me just turn here.
And eat. Well, we're eating.
Yes,
that's the most important thing.
Yes, but the cupcake is out of my reach, so that might make me just a little annoyed throughout the rest of it.
You can move that mic. Yeah, exactly. Just
how's that? Is that better?
You can move the mic stand. Just shift it. Oh yeah, let's get that.
Okay, cool.
This will be dangerous.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so did you have money to put in this piggy bank then?
He gave me an allowance.
Okay, so he made, because he saved so much money on not buying a piggy bank, or he was so practical.
Yes.
That what kind? Do you remember how much it was?
There was he would put $20 bills in there.
What?
Yes.
How long?
Yes.
How often?
I don't think it was on schedule. That was the thing. He would just always have $20 in there.
But for what? Like, would you ever use that?
It was for me to use. And so the piggy bank didn't have, there's no coin slot where you can open it at the bottom and shake it out. But so you just dug your fingers in the slit. So it wasn't very effective in getting you to build the discipline to, I really want to take money, but I can't. I just stick my whole hand in there and get it. However, I think that people are often hardwired to have certain money behaviors, and my money behavior was always to hoard. And so my father would fill it and I would leave it.
I think I agree with you, because I've been asking people a lot, why do you think you were like that when you were younger? Like, what made you save or spend or not care about money? And I think, I think you're right about being hardwired.
Because my sister's not like that, right?
That's right.
And we have the same parents. And when I was a little girl, I was the type of person who on Halloween would have a very strategic plan about how I would go trick-or-treating, and I would go back to the houses that had the most, the most
I just saw this
candy.
on This Is Us. Or, Randall, are you watching that show too?
No, I can't watch shows that make me cry right now. I'm pregnant. And I'm just over-emotional already, so.
You got to watch that one, because so you actually had like a map, or...
Oh, I was very, very strategic. And then I'd come home and I'd lay it all out on the floor, and I'd make that candy last till the next October 31st. And so, some things are perishable, because back then you would just eat the brownie that's wrapped in plastic, which we say to throw out now. But
you got to throw that out too?
Nowadays?
Even if it's wrapped in plastic?
Well, it was wrapped in saran wrap.
The homemade ones. Okay.
Apparently several decades ago, we were a little bit less careful with that stuff. So anyways, I would eat it, and then I would save, some of the other stuff like the chips, and I'd save it for later, and it would be like a goal that I would work towards. I'd eat all this crappy candy, and at the end of 2 weeks, I'd get this really great candy. And so I actually had a plan to make it last. Meanwhile, my husband was the type of person who, when he was a kid, he ate all of his candy literally in 3 days, and then he would go to the schoolyard and try to negotiate for more candy, somebody else's candy. It's just a personality thing, I think.
With money?
I have no idea.
Yeah. He's getting more. So
he's just a born business person.
You two
that's
are
what's
still
in his
like this.
brain.
Then, like would you be the frugal saver, and he's just the negotiator trying to get more like revenue?
Yes.
Versus,
that is the joy and the pains of our relationship, right? Because there is research that shows that spenders marry savers.
It's a good point.
And then there's even more research that shows that actually is not a good idea.
No,
it happens, but
the spenders win, right? Don't they? Don't the spenders always win?
It just means conflict.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a magical fairy tale to say that a saver will teach a spender how to appreciate the future, and then the spender is going to teach the saver how to live in the now, and it seems this perfect balance. But in real life, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, interesting.
And so, Sean, yes, I mean, if you look around our kitchen right now, every gadget is something that Sean has bought on a whim online that has come to our house.
And you don't want the gadgets?
No, there are pasta makers in our basement and juicers and all sorts of things that have not even come out of the box. It's just, it's a source of, I'm annoyed.
Yeah?
It annoys me.
What would you want? Do you want to just like get rid of, have a yard sale and get rid of all of it?
I don't want to get rid of it. I just wish it wasn't there in the first place, But that's, it becomes this, I chose this partner, and we have to make compromises, and we have to live with the fact that each other has different default settings. So, for example, I don't even know why I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to talk about poop. Okay, so
not the first one on the podcast.
Okay,
so don't worry.
Recently, my son was potty training, and he had an accident in his pants, and Sean's first inclination is, my husband's first inclination is to throw the pants out, like right away. I don't want to deal with the poop. I don't want to look at it. Just throw it out. And I immediately was so upset about that. I said, why would you throw that out? That costs money. We had to buy those pants. I'm just going to wash them.
Yeah.
And he said, I would pay somebody not to have to deal with dirty poop pants.
So do you think this is a hardwired thing, or has to do with how you're brought up as well?
I do think that the conversations that you have with your family, the way that your family handled money, talked about money, your relationship with money is shaped by your family for sure. And you can have experiences. I've interviewed lots of people over the years who've been shaped by, my father he wouldn't pay for any of our programs. And so now I just spend all this money on my kids' programs, right? Because I don't want him to feel what I felt. So there is that. I do think, just like nature versus nurture, there's some things that you bring to the table, and there are some things that come through evolution and through life.
Mm-hmm. So you're leaving this $20 in the box all the time then?
I was, yes.
So it might as well, you just knew it was there. Did that mean anything to you, though?
Yes, it meant I was going to one day spend it on something great, but I never did.
So just to clarify.
I just like the feeling of just having it and saving it and knowing that it was there.
It was always just $20, and then he would replace it if it wasn't there. Or would he add more?
He would add to it.
So more $20 bills. So do you remember how much... would have been in there, or when did you actually open it?
I would add to it too, because every Chinese New Year, you get red pockets.
Red pockets, yeah.
Filled with money, and so I would add the money too. So I don't even know. I don't recall whether it was my father putting more money in, or it was just me. Maybe my father put the initial investment in, and then I just kept adding to it, and soon the box was filled, and I loved that.
I need to know how much money was in this box.
I have
when you
no
finally
idea.
use it, or you did use it someday.
There was hundreds for sure. There were hundreds of dollars in it. And I don't know. It was like 8.
Did you end up spending it on something?
Never.
So where is it now? Do you still have it?
It went into the bank account.
Okay.
So it did, yeah.
So you eventually took it whenever you opened a bank account. Do you have
Yes.
that memory, or is that just all blurred in?
It's blurred, but I do remember that little blue, the little pocket, and you would go and you'd it would feed the machine, and it would print line by line what your balance was.
Can people still do that? Do they still, is there, if you are nostalgic, or I guess over a certain age where you don't want to know about online banking, can you still do that at an ATM these days?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. I feel like I remember when you could do it at the ATM.
Yes.
But I don't know if they phased that out. Because if you're doing that, you probably want to go into the branch anyway. That's what I think.
I think it's a great exercise for kids to go into the branch. It just makes the whole process tangible. I think that's a really important experience. I have my own ideas about what I believe the intangibility of money does for our society and for the way that we spend. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if we could, that I love that. I loved the seeing my balance in the book and
yeah. But is that the reality that Jet's gonna have though? Right?
I can make it the reality. I can go in with him. I can get them to print out a statement physically.
But even will the branches even still be there when it's time for him?
That's a good
question. I don't know that, right?
Yes. Well, there are different kind of apps right now that are and ones that are coming that try to make it a little bit more interactive for kids. And I'm hoping
it. I like that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there will be something like that when I'm ready to talk about that with Jet.
Yeah, I had Dojo on. That's one of them. They're working with an Alberta bank, I think, right now. And yeah, there's a couple more out.
Right.
I saw some down at FinCon.
Yes, I saw a few at FinCon,
though,
yeah. So I'm sure, the landscape is changing, right? Technology is changing so quickly. So there will be something. I don't know what it is, but right now we're good with we have a piggy bank. We don't have a shoebox. We have a piggy bank. Because
he has a piggy bank now.
Yes, but it's because I believe that Jet's not like me. I think he's like my husband. And so if there is something there, he will take it and he will want to spend it.
Because he's got the genes from both of you.
Yes, but the default setting, I think, is the...
it's stronger. It's dominant.
I think so. It's the way that he has his candy, too, and the way that he eats his food or his snacks. Like he just wants to stuff them all in his face. I say, just wait, just enjoy, maybe save one for tomorrow, for later, even for a couple minutes. No, it's just all in his face.
And that's not all kids, though?
He has friends who don't do them, who act differently with their candy.
Yeah, okay.
It's just, I don't know.
So you had this box full of money that maybe a lot of other people would have just spent on candy.
Maybe.
As it went. And do you remember when you first started earning your own money? Were you a teenager?
Yes, I was babysitting.
Ah, there you go.
So you get the babysitting money. Went in the box.
Yeah, okay. So that kept going in the box.
Or the bank account, or whichever one. I don't remember now. Yeah.
Kept going in the box. And then after that, did you work retail jobs or
I did. Service? I worked. My family owned one of the oldest restaurants in Winnipeg.
Oh wow!
And so,
is that where you're from? We haven't even talked about that.
I'm a Winnipegger. I'm a Pegger, and my parents and the family, they owned a restaurant called Shanghai. It was this monstrous building on a corner in Chinatown, and I think it opened in the late 30s, and that's where I saw I am a hard worker, and I think that is built from what I grew up with. I mean, working in a restaurant.
Yeah,
that's a slog, right? It's laborious.
It's all the time,
all
right?
day. My parents were there on the weekends. My father worked a 9 to 5 for the government, and then he worked at the restaurant.
Are you serious?
He worked on the holidays. I never saw them on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve.
Wow, they were working. That's dedication.
Yeah, and the whole family was there. My uncle, everybody just put the time in. And you didn't do one thing, right? You had to do everything. So you were, my father would take orders. He'd bring the food out. Somebody else would be, doing serving tables, but then they might be cleaning at the end. And so you see the grit that goes into making money.
Is the restaurant still there?
It actually closed just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago? Wow. Yeah, but I mean, you said 30s, so...
It was a long time, and the legacy of that restaurant is the next generations. You know, we didn't want to run it.
Yeah.
But all of the money that came from that enterprise is what funded all of our educations. Mm-hmm. So all the grandkids went off to chase their own dreams.
So you worked in this restaurant?
I did a little bit of work in the restaurant, yes.
Well, like everything?
They wouldn't let me. It was mostly at the front.
Okay. Yeah.
So I worked in the front.
The face of the restaurant?
Yeah, my grandfather really prized...
Host?
Yes.
Hostess, is that still the right
sort
term?
of but cashier, I suppose.
Okay, sure.
My grandfather really prized education.
Okay, yeah.
And so he really wanted the kids to spend more time studying. So we didn't spend too much time working in the restaurant. We were pursuing our studies so that we could further ourselves.
Yeah, because somebody just mentioned this concept to me in that, like, yeah, if you're working in high school or, you know, whenever, this was probably high school times when you were...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, that's your job, is going to high school. Like, what is high school for? What are we going to school for? To learn about, you know, showing up somewhere on time,
yes,
getting your work done, and, you know, having a full day and being able to plan for that, right? And so now we're throwing part-time jobs at kids. Mm-hmm. They're tired. Mm-hmm. They maybe don't make it to school, so now that's not a priority. The making money is a priority. It's interesting, right?
It is interesting. I don't necessarily agree.
Yeah, okay.
I think it should be a balance.
Yeah.
I don't think you should, you know, be encouraging your 13-year-old to try to work every day after school, and it's not that.
In moderation, right?
I think when you're older, I think it's really important to go and learn what it takes to make money out there.
Yeah, and so
I worked all through university.
Yeah,
I worked several jobs in university, and so
several,
not
okay.
seven, several.
I'm like, all at once, or no. All seven? No. So several jobs.
I would have if I could have, given
what did you take
given how ambitious I was trying to be at the time. While I was studying, I tutored. So I tutored writing. I worked at the mall, and so I sold, you know, clothing.
What did you study?
Journalism.
Nice.
I have a bachelor's of journalism
you
with
are
a major in newspapers.
You can major in newspapers?
Yes, I chose it back then because I thought that was the one that was going to be around the longest.
I can move past that. Yeah. We don't want to make it look bad. But
it's okay. I learned so many great skills.
They're
it doesn't
still
matter.
Around, though. Like, if somebody would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said probably not. Just because that's where the internet, I thought, was heading. Mm-hmm. But they are still around, so you're right.
They are. They're just changing forms.
Okay.
Becoming online publications.
But they're online, but they're still in print, too. People still want print
They
publications.
are still in print.
I don't understand it, but...
I think there's an older generation that really loves the feel of the paper and the ink. And
Is it newspaper different than a book? Like, in terms of that, you know, feeling of the paper? Like, will books be around forever?
Oh, I don't
Physical
know.
books, yeah. What do you think?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think they will.
Yeah,
I think it'll just all going digital.
Everything's just
going to go digital.
Do we have to come up with something to replace? So yeah, because you have a book coming.
Yes, I do. Happy Go Money,
and it should be
out. It's out now.
Yes. Whenever this airs.
Yes.
And you're also pregnant.
Yes, and hopefully the baby will not be out when this airs.
Yes.
It's just we'll see.
It'll be my fault if I delay the
Oh no,
the airing,
that's fine. I just
didn't
want I don't want the baby to come early. My first came early, and it was a surprise. But
we'll just say that this
book baby first,
yes,
and then actual baby after.
So we'll say this is sometime in January, but in the book date release is do you have a
January 8th?
January 8th. Yeah, it's like kind of the first possible time of the new year.
Yeah, new year, new you. I mean, that's the time when people are looking for inspiration for trying to improve their lives. And obviously you and I strongly believe in the power of how to manage money to change your life. And so I am very excited for people to read it. It's very personal, and it's, I hope, fun. I hope it's funny.
What's the title of it?
Happy Go Money.
Yeah, so that sounds fun to me.
It sounds happy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got wait, are you on the cover? I forget now.
I'm not on the cover.
No, but it's the title, and it's a bunch of is it a bunch of balls? Is it a bunch of like
candy?
It's candy. Okay.
Candy.
I couldn't tell. Like I I didn't drill down, but
could be little balls, but could be candy.
Like colored balls, colored candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to were you involved in this photo shoot?
You know what? I have had a wonderful experience with my publishers, ECW Press. They're very collaborative and very supportive. And we actually had a couple of cover options that started the whole thing. And I've heard of other authors just saying, no, I just had a cover shown to me and said, this is what you get. But however, ECW Press sent me 3 and they said, what do you think? Nice. What are your thoughts? And I was fine with the one that we chose. It was it was very different. It was a cover with a piggy bank on it.
Okay.
Which is a little bit cliche, but it's obvious what you're gonna get if you
want people to read the book.
That's right. If you look on a bookshelf and you see a piggy bank, you think this book is gonna help me with money. Yeah. And so I was totally fine with it. However, it didn't feel right. It's sort of your instinct, and I expressed that, and so. The publisher was, I guess they had the same instinct as well, and they went back to the drawing board. And so we just bounced around ideas, and we came up with, they showed me some photos of candy, and they actually, the cover designer, who I don't know what kind of discipline is involved in doing this, but she actually with tweezers, moved all that candy to be able to spell out the space of happy go
I
money.
Just assumed Photoshop.
No. Yeah. Thousands. And on my Instagram, there is in my stories. Yeah. I show some clips of her process.
Okay.
She just spreads out thousands of tiny bits of candy and then moves them so that she can make the A and the. I thought, oh my gosh, that is intense.
Well, that just makes the cover so much better.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't it to know that?
I'm very happy with it. I love it.
That's cool. So it's I didn't want to jump right into the book, but we can.
Okay.
So Happy Go Money, and
yes.
so it's personal, and that you're talking about your life a lot, not just advice about money, which I'm sure is in there.
Yes.
But can you give a little taste of
my elevator pitch for the book?
Sure,
is basically how to manage your life in a way to maximize happiness.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of positive psychology books out there, a lot of books about happiness, and there are books about personal finance guides. And I just gotta squish them all together. And it's not. I had a book proposal floating around with my agent for 7 years, and so it wasn't. It wasn't this book. It took a life event that they could give it an anchor. And so something happened between Sean and I that I straight up talk about in the very beginning of the book. And that's what sort of led me on this journey.
And we're not going to spoil it because we want people to read the book.
Oh, no, it's the very beginning of the book. Yeah. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Do you want me?
No, good if you want.
A couple months after getting married, Sean and I had just bought, a townhouse in the burbs, and we were trying to settle in, and he got a prescription for sleeping pills because he was headed to a ski trip with the dudes.
Okay.
And he thought, I'm going to be sleeping with these guys. They're going to be snoring. I want to sleep.
Yeah. Sounds like a good call.
And he had not actually taken medication before, not even Tylenol.
Never, nothing.
No. And he had a really terrible reaction to it. He became horribly depressed and just stricken with anxiety and suicidal ideation. And he became somebody very different.
Yeah.
And that is not what they tell you is going to happen when you get married. You think, I'm going to be reading about baby books. You don't think that you're going to be accompanying your husband to the hospital. Yeah. So in the day, I was working at the Financial Post. I was writing about personal finance, but in my off hours, there was nothing I could do for Sean, but I wanted to be happy. And so I went on this personal quest to just try to be happy in the face of what is probably the worst time of our lives. And so we went to wellness retreats. I listened to hours upon hours of lectures from happiness gurus, from Buddhist monks, from resilience experts. I read every single book I can find about happiness, and nobody talked about finance. But I knew from obviously my work at the Post during the day that we were all trying to be happy through money. And so I wanted to explore that a lot more, and I think that I've tried to distill that in this book. And my way of giving back and saying that maybe you can buy happiness if you know how to manage your money in a certain way, and here's how.
Okay. And so let's go back and figure out how you got to this point to be able to write this book. So my first question is, who paid for school, or how did you pay for university journalism?
I worked, and my father helped me.
Nice. So they had saved up.
They had saved up money for me.
24/7 in the restaurant.
Yes. And so when I was working, all of my money went back to my father.
Okay.
So I think that was an interesting dynamic. Well, my friends thought it was strange that I would work and I signed the back of my paychecks and I just sent them to my dad.
So so when you got a job out of university, as soon as you, or while you were
while
working,
I was in university. Yes.
Yeah.
Because my father was paying
for
my tuition. So my money really technically belonged to him.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because not everybody would have that thought.
No, and I think I think that's my parents. I think it's my father. I mean, he used to give me money as a kid, and I remember my friends would get money from their parents, and they would say, "Oh, I just got $10 from my dad. Let's go blow it."
Yeah,
and I always thought, that's your family's money. Like, I don't understand why you would blow it. That's your money too, and so I carried that. I continue to carry that.
That's how you thought about the $20. In the box.
Why would I blow it? He's giving it to me. It's now mine. I have to take care of it.
So he's giving it to you to hold on to. I like that.
And I'm going to give it back to him. And so, in my adulthood, it's funny because, so in my adulthood, my parents have helped me over the years with different things. So they gave me a little bit of money for my down payment for my first condo. Mm-hmm. I think they gave me a little bit for my wedding. I don't remember. It wouldn't have been a lot because at that point I was heavily entrenched in I can take care of myself, Dad. And there were many times where he did try to offer me money. He still tries to offer me money for Jet. And back then it was a source of pride. I would write void on the checks. Okay. In like big letters, and either give it back to him or actually would paste them in my journal. And to me, it was a symbol of how much my dad cared for me, but it was also a symbol of how much, how important it was for me to take care of myself.
And he's okay with just making the offer. He made the offer if you don't take it.
It's funny because I was going to say that now that I have a kid, I think everything that I have is yours. Mm-hmm. So I feel almost sad if I think that I'm going to give Jet my life savings and everything that I've accumulated afterwards, and he would say, "No, I can take care of myself." That makes me feel sad. So nowadays, it only is recently, only in the last maybe 6 months, that my father gave my son a gift. It was a red pocket gift. Rather than write void on the check, I said, "I'm going to put this in as RESP. Thank you."
There you go.
Because he feels good to do that, and I won't let him take care of me anymore, but he can take care of my son.
That's good. I like the way that has sort of evolved, but we all have our independent days where like I want to do this all myself.
I have a problem with that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I do. I have even Sean, even my husband he says you can't do everything yourself. You know, I don't like to be told, and so I'm realizing that I'm not doing my father a favor by saying no if he wants to gift me some money.
Yeah, that's right.
He wants to because it comes from a good place.
And
he doesn't.
It'll make him
always,
happy.
and he always says, what am I going to do with this? Like you can't be buried with your money.
Is that one of the ways that money can make you happy? By giving it away?
Yes, according to research, if you spend your money on other people, it brings you joy. I mean, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, if you're giving money to charity, studies show that you are more satisfied with your life.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. But you got help with school, and you took that because you didn't have enough money to go to school, right?
No, because I was from Winnipeg, and so I living expenses in Toronto,
So that's when you came to the city.
I did, by myself.
And this is a big city. You're living in the Peg. You're like, I need to go to the big city because I want to be a journalist.
Yes.
This was like, did it matter what kind of journalist at that time? Or?
Well, there were two large universities at the time who would give you a journalism degree, and that was Ryerson and Carleton University. Okay. And so Carleton actually gave me a scholarship, like an $8,000 scholarship. Okay. I still chose Ryerson.
Oh, really?
Just for my own personal reasons, just being in Toronto and all the things that I'd heard about Ryerson and their program, and I wasn't wrong, so I made the right decision.
So you get this degree, and where do you start working? Like, when do you start making a paycheck after that?
So because I was one of those people that was constantly working while I was in school, I did a lot of freelancing. Every single time I had a break, if I had a Christmas break, if I had a spring break, if I had summer break, I would go and find a newspaper to work at. So I'd fly home to Winnipeg, and I'd work at the community papers at first, and then I started working at the Winnipeg Free Press, which is their daily broadsheet. And I did my internship when I was in Toronto at the Globe and Mail.
Nice.
And then after that, I applied to be in the Toronto Star's internship program, which is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
They accept like a handful of people out of hundreds upon hundreds of applicants.
Now still? Is it?
I think so. It is still. And they had an excellent internship program. It was so intense, and it was great. It was such a great education for me. And then I was at the Toronto Star for a little while, and after that, I ended up at the National Post.
And where did personal finance come into play?
Okay, so my journalism career spans about 15 years, 17 years or so. And
you're going across the board. You're writing
I have spent time in every section of the newspaper except sports.
Yeah.
So I was in business. I wrote about arts and life. So I was writing and doing movie reviews. I was traveling. I rode the buses with Queen's Park when there were elections. I was the police reporter at the Post for a little while. And I was working my dream job. I was covering life for the arts and life section at the National Post. I loved it. I loved it so much. If people ran into me in the street, they'd say, "How are you?" I'd be like, "I'm great. I love my job." It was so great. I was really passionate about writing stories about just people stories, right? You know, your health, your
like stuff, everyday stuff, right?
Issues. Yeah, that was important to me. And they were downsizing. So they downsized the department, but my editor, now I see, wanted me to be somewhere where they were growing. He wanted something, he was looking out for me. I didn't see it at the time because I was throwing a fit in his office. But he moved me to the Financial Post in the business section. Okay. And I was devastated.
Because you had never done business before?
I had done business before at the Toronto Star, and I didn't like it. And so I tried to apply for retail jobs.
Really? You were
I was so depressed. I was really down.
Was it because were you writing about like markets and investing, or like not personal finance?
I was in general assignment. So my very first day I was on a conference call and somebody said on the phone M&A, and I had no idea what that was. Yeah. And so I had to say, I'm talking to CEOs of companies who now think I'm the largest moron on the planet.
But that's a corporate term. It's not like a small business would use M&A.
Yes, but if you're in business, you know what that is. It's, mergers and acquisitions, of course, not a candy, Melissa. You're thinking M&M? Did you see M&M? What was that? So, that's hard. And for me, I've always had issues with my confidence when it comes to not being good at my job. I want to be good at my job. And so when you're thrown into something new, you're in the beginning. And that's, for me, I felt really insecure about myself. And like every journey of confidence, it has to begin somewhere. So I decided, you know what? F this. I'm here. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to learn as much as I can. And if I give it an honest shot and I still hate it, then fair. That's fair. I can leave. And so I became close with my editors and my mentors there, my personal finance editor and my editor, Grant Ellis, who was the head of the section at the time. He's now, I think he's general manager at BNN now, but he saw something for me and he carved this space for me to write about personal finance from a feature standpoint.
Nice.
And personal finance is about people.
Yeah, it really
There's
is.
just stories about your life and transitions and big decisions that you have to make. And so for me, I thought, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
No M&A.
I still wrote about that too, but
but you had this personal finance.
I became passionate about personal finance from a very human level, which I think made it, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I think it added an important voice to that landscape. I think it was important for us to discuss more issues involving women and money. I think not only because it's important for women to handle their finances, and more so because we live longer and we need more savings, and we often delegate some of the investing and the long-term planning to our husbands while we handle the day-to-day. It's not just that stuff. There are things that we didn't, that you don't think about that are really important issues, like the cost of infertility and the financial journey that you have to go on for that, or the cost of motherhood. How, women who take a couple years off to raise children, they make 30% less than women who have not taken time off at all. We have to talk about that.
Of course.
It's a fact. You will make less money for your choices. So let's shed a light on that. Let's talk about how we can I mean, lobbying the government for more level playing ground is one thing, but we also can talk about how we in our lives can be more mindful that this is coming, that these are the issues facing us. And so my brain thought of those things, and I'm not sure that that's top of mind with your regular personal finance fare, where your RSP season's coming. Let's all write about the top things that you should be invested in, you know?
Well, yeah, like, shouldn't we talk about like all money things? It's just weird to me that you even had to make a case, or you still have to, for like, this is why we should talk about women's stuff. We should talk about women's stuff because men and women exist in the world, and we all have money things. And how is one more important than the other?
A lot has changed. I mean, you have. I think you always had voices who were trying to push that. You had, like Ellen Roseman, for example, has been writing for decades. And she's always written about, she had a column where she was writing about her kids and her family. But I think there was more pushback, first of all, to some of those ideas. And I think it was rare. It was more. But now you have mommy blogs and you have all of this.
Yeah, I like that. I like that there's room for everybody.
Yes. And there's more light on it. But I mean, when I started in personal finance, I'm trying to remember, I was like 8 years ago or something. There were fewer. I think there were fewer voices.
Definitely
now
fewer books written by women.
Yeah,
and there's so many now.
Now there's
which is
so
awesome.
many popular female bloggers and a lot of millennial bloggers too, reaching new demographics, and so it's exciting, and the landscape is great, and you need diverse voices. I've always felt that way. That's why I've kept my last name. It's why it was always important to me for people to know that I was Chinese, because when I started, it was important to me to have for another generation to see someone like them reflected in the media.
Well, I always quote one of my former guests, previous guests. I don't want to say former. It sounds like it's like past or something. Hamza Khan, he wrote The Burnout Gamble. He'd mentioned on the show that he would have loved to listen to a podcast like this and hear Hamza, like an older Hamza, talk about, I'm in marketing and I'm killing it.
Yes.
Right? Or something inspiring. Mm-hmm. But of course, if he was listening to podcasts, 10 years ago or whenever it was, it might have just been a bunch of white guys or maybe other people that he can't relate to. And so, let's diverse everything. Let's just get it all. Let's diversify all of it so that people can listen and hear themselves.
Yes, you're just looking for relatable stories, and you can't have that if you don't have different voices talking about something. And so I'm not saying that we need to do finance just for women, make it pink. It's not about that. It's about, I'm telling you what's going on in my life with the things that resonate with me. And I think because they resonate with me and my unique experience, hopefully it resonates with you.
I'd like to think that the only people that think that, you're pushing down men and everything's going to be pink are the misogynists. But, it's...
No, I just meant stereotypes.
Yeah, I just like people who are threatened by diversity is something I don't understand. Because it just makes everything just richer to me. That's like, to use a money term, I guess, right? Yeah. It's like if we hear from people with, from different places, different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences.
Of course.
Right?
And different people in different cultures have different experiences with money.
Yes, very different.
And so I love being a part of, I love talking to you. I love being a part of this landscape where we all can share our own experiences.
That's right. And there's room, what I like about the personal finance community in Canada, especially, is there's room for everybody. Everybody was so welcoming to me 2 years ago.
Yes.
And
the nicest people in Canada.
Right?
And that's saying a lot because Canadians are very nice. So
we're the nicest of the nice. Is that
yes.
We might be a little
supportive,
biased here.
Very.
But we have a conference coming up, all of us, right?
No, this is airing. You're
man, I did it again.
Time. We're going back in time.
The conference was great, wasn't it?
It was. Those nice people that gathered there.
They're so nice.
Yes.
But if I remember the one from the previous year, which is now way far away from the airing of this episode, it was my first one, the Canadian Personal Finance Conference, and it's just like, hey, it's like friends and family. It's like you're just all sitting around. Everybody's on the same page.
Yes, it's lovely. It's also lovely to meet all these people who not only that you share the same interests, but I find the community very supportive. And I've always been, I'm on a television show with all women, and I've found that most of the people I mentor are women. And when I receive a job and I can't do it, I often think of somebody often another expert or female worker who I think, female voice who I think would be great. So I've always been about supporting each other. And I found that when I came into this community, they were already like that. They wanted to support you, which is amazing, because I think that there's too much... I can hear my son expressing his anger in the background.
We're eating food on
whining.
The podcast.
Yes.
We're acknowledging the presence of
my
children.
Toddler. Yeah,
my
toddler's
life,
angry
everyone.
about people who don't support other people.
That's right. That's right. He was waiting until then just to speak out. What's the name of the TV show?
Oh, The Social.
It's the Canadian View, right?
Yeah, it's
that's the way that I kind of see it.
Daytime television talk show in Canada.
And when does it air? How often?
It airs at 1:00 daily.
1:00 every day.
And it's live.
So are you on the show every day?
Oh goodness, no.
No, yeah.
We should do a money show every day. Hey?
No, so they bring you on. You're the personal finance.
I'm their money expert. Yes, and so I was on their very first week when they launched about 5 years ago, and I've just kept going back.
How? What's the frequency?
About once a month. Yeah.
Because there's always stuff to talk about when it comes to money. How did you get into the TV part of it? So you were a newspaper specialist.
Yes, I was. I was a writer. I actually went to Ryerson thinking that I would go into broadcasting and found that I wasn't very good on camera.
Okay.
When I was 18.
At that point, you needed more time.
I needed the confidence, I think.
Sure. That makes sense.
I mean, not that I necessarily have the confidence now. It's just I had a really great team at the National Post, and the National Post, I've always thought, they let you be who you are. And sometimes I feel like it's a bunch of... Sometimes I felt it was me and my friends running a daily national newspaper.
Really?
And so when I was in personal finance, we started making some videos for the Post.
Okay.
And my editors were like... Yeah, go for it. Whatever. Do whatever you want. And so we named it, Save Your Effing Money.
Nice.
And we just shot random things. Like, they pied me in the face. We just did skits where...
Are these all on YouTube?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I dressed up in ridiculous outfits. I dressed up like Supergirl once to talk about insurance. I prank called my parents to ask them if I could have all their money in their estate so we could talk about estate planning.
Amazing.
It was so fun. And I
didn't know about these.
Oh, we just wrote them. We wrote them. We stuck them on there. I did a fake cooking show where I was stirring coins in a bowl. Anyways, it was a great outlet for creativity.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started with video, just being an ass on YouTube.
That's smart, because we just got to get started when it comes to video, right? It's tough. It's tough to do video if you haven't done it before.
I think that if you are self-conscious, that getting over that hump is tough. But the stuff that we were putting out there early on, it was myself and a producer and a videographer. And we just had fun. We had so much fun. Like, I rented a giant wedding dress to do a wedding savings video. And it was just, they threw money at me in the air. Like, it was, making it rain ridiculous. I don't know. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe?
Okay.
Some of the earlier ones we did.
Well, you have a YouTube channel of your own?
Not really.
No. Where,
I don't.
they'd be on the Post.
They'd be on the National Post website.
Like maybe
they're on YouTube. You could probably Google them.
Yeah, okay.
Find them on YouTube.
Okay, we'll Google you.
Yes, find my embarrassing videos on YouTube. But it was all in the name of financial literacy, so I stand behind them.
Yeah, we got to try to do different things, right? That's why all these different books are coming out, because everybody responds to different things. Happy Go Money, or like Shannon's book,
Worry Free.
Yeah, Worry Free Money. It's like, you can read The Wealthy Barber and all the original ones and stuff, but maybe not everything's going to speak to you. And so to me, there's always room for another voice, more voices.
Like I said, different people relate to different things.
Exactly.
And, I think, when I was, part of the reason why my books sort of sat around for so long is because I thought, oh, there's so many personal finance books. What can I bring to it that will be different? And what it was, what I didn't realize was that I have my own.
It's you.
Yeah, it's my own voice. It's my own insight, and all the mistakes, with your own personal journey that come with it. And
it's the same argument for bloggers or anybody coming out with something new. It's like, it's so saturated. What I can't write. Nobody wants another article about saving money on groceries or clipping coupons or whatever, right? But that's not it. It's you are you. Nobody else is you.
Right. And you know what? You might not be interested in that. You might think that clipping coupons is ridiculous.
Yeah.
In which case you would have a personal finance blog about that, and there would be people who relate to you.
That's right. Exactly.
And so, yeah, those videos were not made for people who who necessarily work on Bay Street and need an entrance into basic personal finance. They were not geared for that. But I remember when some of them went up on the website, at the National Post website, there's one where I'm in gold leotards and I'm doing an exercise video, and we made some sort of fake infomercial for a money contraption. And there were some comments from people who were saying, are you serious? What are you doing? Financial Post. But again, not for you.
Yeah, we got to talk about what you started doing with your money when you started making it, because that's part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
So you were making money, being a journalist for 15 years. How did you learn about investing or were you just super frugal and a saver? Is that all that kind of came?
I wasn't. I went through a period born out of insecurity where you are in your early 20s and you think you need to spend your money like an adult.
Mm.
And so I filled my apartment with things that I thought an adult should have, or a successful person should wear this. And so I did. I was spending a lot of money mindlessly.
Like in debt? Were you in debt or?
I was never in debt.
No. So
I was always afraid
about that.
I was always afraid of debt.
Sure. Yeah.
And I got a friend who was a personal finance, a financial advisor, to give me my first budget.
Oh, nice.
And that's how I sort of got started on my own personal journey. But in the beginning, my own financial behaviors, just I like to save, and so it was easier for me to save. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past too, but I was never somebody who got carried away and got lost in debt.
And what about investing? Did you invest in something early on, or was it housing, or you said your parents gave you a down payment for a condo?
Yeah. So earlier on in my 20s, I invested in housing. So I bought a condo, and I invested in what most Canadians are invested in is mutual funds.
No. Tim Hortons stock?
Maybe if it's part of the basket.
It's probably in one of our mutual funds. But yeah, so this is in
my 20s.
In your 20s, so probably 2.5% mutual funds, MER,
maybe
that.
higher.
And maybe higher.
I mean, back then I had no idea.
Did you have to get out of them? Did you have to pay penalties or anything?
I did.
Yeah, deferred sales charges.
Yes, I'm still angry about it. It's like 10 years later. I don't know, 15 years later, and I'm still angry about it.
So you must have cut out of them early enough. Then, it wasn't like the 6 or 7 years went by. Did you cut halfway through your deferred sales charge?
No, the idea of losing money was so painful to me that I waited.
So you waited.
I waited until the DSC counted down.
You did.
But in that time, I just thought about all the opportunities I could have been that I'm missing out on. Yeah. And I was thinking about my other portfolio that was actually doing better.
Yeah.
The portfolio that I built myself.
Was it doing better, or was it doing the same but because of the fees?
Yes. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
It was doing pretty much the same, but maybe
fees eroded.
Yeah, 2 or 3% higher.
Sure. And that's sometimes all it takes, right? That's why we talk about these
2 or 3% over many, many years is a lot of money.
People might be
that pisses me off.
Why do you guys keep talking about these 2.5% mutual
Right, because
funds?
they think if somebody drank 2% of my coffee every day, I would not blink an eye. But you'd be pissed.
Yes.
If somebody did the math for you and you saw how much money you were losing over, say, 20 years.
Yeah, and that's why money's a different conversation than other things, because it only works in the money situation, right? The compound interest concept and the returns over time, right? Compounding returns. It only applies to money, so that's why it's hard for people to relate using other examples, right?
Yes,
do you have another one?
Well, I like Robert Brown's.
Oh yeah, the rabbits.
I like his rabbits. One rabbit does another rabbit, and they make many more rabbits. Or zombies. One zombie bites another zombie, and they make more zombies.
So yeah, Robert's got a lot of good ones. Yes,
I use a dragon only because I'm obsessed with Game of Thrones, and so you got your egg, and you have to let it. It's the time.
Yeah.
The time is what makes it turn into that giant
beast.
Actual.
Otherwise, it's just
right. Otherwise,
breakfast.
it's a tiny lizard. What's the point
of
that?
Or a lizard, or an egg yolk.
Yeah.
Something with the toast. But yeah, no, of course, Robert's got a lot of examples
Yes.
in there. So pick up Wealthy Like Rabbits. I got to plug Robert now.
Very fun. It was a great read.
So you did the mutual funds and you got out of them, but you were upset. And then you got into stuff that you're probably in now, I'm guessing ETFs and other
back
things
then,
like that.
back then my way out of mutual funds were with TDE series.
Index
and so
funds.
that was like my first, I don't want to be in mutual funds, but I wasn't in business at that time either. And so I was still, quote unquote, a novice, I suppose. Sure.
But you knew you shouldn't be paying these fees, and you were upset about the deferred sales charges. And so you moved into something that had a lower fee on it. Yeah,
I knew. You know what? I think that myself and other Canadians, you develop a relationship with your advisor, right?
Okay.
And they sell mutual funds.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
That's their job.
And so I asked my advisor many times about, hey, what about this? Or what about ETFs? Or what about this? And she would always say, well, what else can she say? She said, well, you know what? What you're also paying for in that 2% is my service to you.
That's
my advice to you, my guidance, my coaching. And at the time, I thought, worth it.
Okay.
Worth it.
Good. I'm glad.
And I think I think that's fine too. If some people want to pay a little bit extra to get somebody to help them, that's what that is for. But if you are not using the coaching, if your financial advisor sucks and doesn't call you
once
and
a year,
you don't see them, they're just basically reaping benefits off of your initial investment, or they only call you around RRSP season just to say, hey, where's my money at?
More.
Then are you getting the value for that, say 2% or whatever it is?
That's probably the best conversation to have about it. It's not we
don't
don't hate fees, but we hate fees that are for nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, get something for your money, right?
Yes.
And DSCs are becoming rarer and rarer.
Oh yeah, they don't exist much anymore.
But back
some
then,
people might still still be in there or have to pay upfront charges.
Yes, because even though they phased them out a few years ago, if you locked in, say 4 years ago, then you still have a few years to go before it's gone, right?
I paid my penalty to get out.
Oh, you did?
I did.
You were like, screw you, I'm getting out of here.
I won't blame the advisor because I'm sure they told me, because it was a friend of mine, but no, I'm good, thanks.
Sorry, my husband is playing waiter. He's just coming by and saying, would you like some more water?
No, actually, I think this, I think we're good. I think this is we got like kind of your full story. The book is where you're at now, and we can find out more about you in the book too, right? A lot of your stories in there. My
embarrassing stories, my highlights, my lowlights.
Yeah. This is
and obviously money advice and happiness advice. As well.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
So
so fun.
The book is
Happy Go Money.
And it's coming out
in January, on January 8th, on all available bookstores in Canada and the U.S.
Otherwise, people can watch
The Social, yes. And still catch my articles in the Financial Post.
You're still writing for the Post and other places you're writing? And
I just pop up. You can also find me. Yeah, I do my rounds, and sometimes I appear on different TV shows and radio stations. And
you spoke at a conference in November?
I do a lot of keynote speaking, yes. And I have a love-hate relationship with social media because I think it makes us miserable, to be honest.
Sure.
It's a detriment to our financial situations. However, I am most active on Instagram. So if somebody wants to DM me or look at pictures of food I've burned in my Instagram stories or whatever it is, then that's where they can find me at Leong.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll put all those links in. But thanks for having me in your home, and it's great to meet your family. And we're eating food, snacks,
junk food. I'm pregnant,
food.
Okay? I can't go 5 minutes without having some sort of carb.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or however you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave me a 5-star rating or review or both. If you're already a subscriber, thanks so much. I'd love to get your feedback on this episode in my new Facebook group. To find the group, go to Facebook and search for The Personal Finance Show. Once you're approved, you'll be able to interact with me, previous guests of the show, and other fans as well. Thanks for listening to my first episode of 2019. As I said at the beginning of the episode, it's going to be a busy year, but I'll still do my best to bring you new guests every week. That's all from me. Until next week, when my guest will be Damion Lupo from Total Control Financial.
Was I crunching really loudly?
Oh,
I didn't eat the pickle. Here.
Yeah.
Hello, friends of personal finance.
Oh, this is going to be... I'll put this right at the end.
Nice.